Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Karin Helmstedt.
A warm welcome to our Euromaxx highlights. And coming up in today's show, high anxiety, Freddy Nock from Switzerland and his multiple high-wire world records. Time for design. Don't be late for the O'Clock exhibition in Milan. And vintage bubbly, Germany's oldest sparkling wine in the town of Esslingen. Well, green means go, and we're starting off the show with a little guy who celebrated a birthday this past week. What you see here is Berlin's very own pedestrian traffic light signal, the Ampelmännchen, in green for walk or red for stop. Now, he hails from East Berlin, where he was created 50 years ago, and somewhat surprisingly, after the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, he became a symbol of the reunified city.
The little man with a hat is a real charmer. East Germany's answer to Western pedestrian crossing pictograms is now a symbol of the reunited city of Berlin. Tourists are especially fond of him, and these days he's seen everywhere, not just at traffic lights. He's become a brand and a popular souvenir, one of the few East German products to survive the fall of communism.
On my first visit to Berlin, I took a picture right away, at the first traffic light I saw.
Usually it's clear, red or green, stop or go, but if you really look, it's nicely done. For West Germans like us, we come from the Cologne-Bonn area, it's interesting to see, and we like it.
He's a cult object.
The little traffic light man was introduced at pedestrian crossings in East Germany in 1969. He was designed in 1961 by the late Karl Peglau, a traffic psychologist. The aim was to draw the attention of the most vulnerable pedestrians.
If you want to appeal to children or old people, it's very bad to use abstract pictograms. Children, and especially the elderly, think more graphically and specifically. So I just tried to translate this clarity into a personified symbol.
Peglau wanted his pictogram to be human and dynamic. In his first sketches, it even had fingers and a mouth. Both were later removed. His hat and chubby figure served a very practical purpose. They let more light through. Peglau's widow recalls his attention to detail.
He didn't know what sort of haircut the man should have. He was full of misgivings. Then his secretary came along and said, "Why don't you put a little hat on him?" He said, "He can't wear a hat. Who wears a hat in East Germany?"
But the hat, at the time a symbol of capitalism, stayed. And the little man was so popular in communist East Germany that he even appeared in an animated cartoon to teach children what to do at pedestrian crossings.
Halt, mein Junge, halte an, ruft der rote Ampelmann.
He even doffed his hat at them as a sign of approval.
Zieh ich meinen Hut, geht, macht eure Sache gut.
Then, with German reunification, the East German man with the hat was threatened with extinction. The authorities wanted to use the West pictogram nationwide. One person who didn't want to accept that was designer Markus Heckhausen. He came to Berlin from the western German town of Tübingen in the mid-1990s and immediately fell for the little man.
As a designer, I thought it was a real shame that an official sign that was actually witty was now set to disappear because of German reunification.
The media took notice when Heckhausen designed the first product featuring the figure, a lamp. Citizens groups and politicians campaigned for the symbol to be preserved. Then in 1997, they succeeded. The first Eastern German states reintroduced the man with the hat, and Berlin adopted its use citywide. Nowadays, Markus Heckhausen owns the trademark rights for the little man and markets his products worldwide. The figure has become a popular souvenir, and tourists take him home with them. In snow globes, on clocks, and mugs. Berlin-based design professor Franz Hickmann says it's the oddity of the figure that makes the chubby man with the hat so successful.
It's not perfectly drawn, you might say. Its proportions aren't anatomically correct. But that imperfection is what makes him so sympathetic and makes sure he doesn't seem too cold or rigid.
And the success continues. Every time a pedestrian light in Western Berlin needs fixing, it's replaced by the man with the hat from the east.
Well, our next report is not for those with a fear of heights. Freddy Nock from Switzerland is an extreme artist tightrope walker. And just 2 months ago, he set an amazing 7 world records in just 9 days, tightrope walking in the Alps. Yes, you heard right. Now, this included one walk along a cable car line up Germany's highest mountain. That's the Zugspitze. And in this case, seeing is definitely believing. So let's see how he does it.
The air is thin at 3,300 meters above sea level. An icy wind is blowing at 60 kilometers an hour, and the high wire has 55% lean on it. Freddy Nock is attempting to make his way across the Korvatsch Glacier in Switzerland without a sway pole, but the wind is too strong.
I want to know how far I can push my limits, and now I can say how far that limit is. A 60-kilometer-an-hour wind is too much without a pole. You can't do it.
Not everything goes the record-hungry daredevil's way. In August, he set 7 world records in 9 days. He went down the cables over the Korvatsch Glacier with a sway pole, conquered the Feuerkogel in the Austrian Alps, and walked along the Zugspitze cable railway in Germany without the aid of a pole. And the 46-year-old nearly made it across the entire Lake Thun in Switzerland. No one's ever gone that far before.
It was 2 kilometers, and there were 169 meters of it where there was no tension. For me, of course, it was a will it work or won't it moment. I simply went for it. How far along was I? Would I make 400 meters? And I did. Then how far? 500 meters? Then a kilometer?
Freddy Nock comes from a Swiss circus family. Already performing at the age of 5, he won a silver medal in 1994 at Monte Carlo's International Circus Festival, where he was part of a human pyramid. Balance is his life. At home in a small Swiss town, Freddy Nock practices to break world records.
High up, it's definitely different, but that doesn't bother me. That's just the way it is. When I stand on this, I imagine I'm 100 meters high. And I need to memorize the mistakes I make on the training wire, and then I have to tell myself that can't happen again.
The things Freddy Nock dares to do may seem foolhardy and reckless, but he says he's a safety fanatic. He practices on a slack wire that simulates the movements of a tightrope in high wind, constantly practicing falling. Freddy Nock only walks on wires where he has supervised the setup himself.
You walk. You got to catch the wire with one hand or both, so you can get back up. If you ask how long can I stand or sit up here, I can stand as long as I need to. It hurts your bum a bit, but at least somebody can rescue you.
His wife is relatively relaxed about the ideas for daring new world records that Freddy Nock comes up with.
I know what he can do, and we talk a great deal with each other. I know he can catch himself, so no, I'm not scared, not really.
Back at the glacier, Freddy Nock is training in a less windy spot for his next shot at a world record. As he works on going down the valley without a sway pole, new ideas are already coming into his head.
Maybe I can do it blindfolded. It would be a way to test myself. If I can't see anything and just go up and do it for a good cause, for people who are blind. Those are things I'd like to do. I've got an idea of what I'd like to do. I'm just trying to figure out how to do it. I'm already practicing.
Up to now, he's got 6 entries in the Guinness Book of World Records and a further 11 world records elsewhere. The extreme performer Freddy Nock is working hard to set a world record in setting world records.
From Michelangelo to Salvador Dali, right down to Pink Floyd, the passage of time has preoccupied artists of all disciplines pretty much since time itself began. A new exhibition at the Triennale Design Museum in Milan, Italy, shows that as a subject it's still as topical as ever, and this time in conjunction with design.
There are many ways to mark time. O'Clock Time Design, Design Time, showing at La Triennale Museum in Milan, is all about the way contemporary artists and designers deal with time, transience, and the past. Spanish designer and architect Patricia Urquiola put the show together and created several installations of her own. The Bug is one of them. It is made of components from furniture she designed.
We said an exhibition about time has to have a time machine. It symbolizes the impossibility of controlling the past and the future, as well as the desire to know what is behind us and what is in front of us, to go there and to come back.
This is another of her works. It's called Hurry Up, and it's based on the white rabbit in Alice in Wonderland who muttered to himself, oh dear, I shall be too late."
The rabbit runs after you, telling you that time is flying by. Just like in everyday life, we are all so stressed out and worried about being late.
A cuckoo clock reworked by German artist Stefan Strumbel. Drawing machine by Eske Rex from Sweden marks the passage of time. A number of works were commissioned especially for the exhibition. Among them, beautiful sunflower panerai painting by Damien Hirst. This clock by Martí Guixé of Spain emits aromas, cappuccino or tomato sauce, to tell you when it's mealtime. This work about weeds is by Italian landscape architect Stefano Baccari.
Weeds mean vitality, self-assertion, and the will to grow. Eventually, they'll spread all over the asphalt. That's the way I see time. Nature will prevail over dead matters such as asphalt.
It looks like there's a man inside this clock, updating the time by hand. It's a video installation by Martin Baas from the Netherlands. You can download this 24-hour film, Standard Time, by Mark Formanek from Berlin. It will replace the digital time display on your computer screen. The American Noah Kalina took a photo of himself every day for 6 years to make his video every day. The show illustrates how more and more artists are becoming interested in time and what has become of a natural sense of time in the digital age.
Many of the works seem to address that issue, that we need to take our time. We should not always feel time breathing down our neck, but rediscover patience. Many pieces make you feel nervous just looking at them, because even spending a minute concentrating on something is hard these days.
Patricia Urquiola had just 3 days to set up more than 100 exhibits. Working that hard gave her a special sense of time.
3 days felt like 6, 9, or 20 days. Time became so concentrated. Minutes and hours seemed to stretch. It was a great feeling.
For those in a hurry, Fast Track is just the thing. It will take you around the show in 4 minutes flat.
Well, another recent highlight was Sebastian Vettel winning his second Formula One World Champion title. That was at the Japanese Grand Prix and 4 races out from season end. Last year, the young German driver became the youngest world champion ever in Formula One. But despite racking up the records, the 24-year-old has kept his feet firmly on the ground, and that's something his fans certainly appreciate.
The fans in Sebastian Vettel's hometown of Heppenheim went ballistic. Vettel was made an honorary citizen of the town in 2010, and his fans were out to celebrate in style. The first champagne cork started to pop as soon as Vettel finished third at the race in Suzuka, Japan, making him Formula One's youngest ever double world champion.
It's just crazy. I don't know what else to say. It's simply crazy. I'm lost for words.
To see all the people from Heppenheim here gives you goosebumps.
What a fantastic guy.
He hasn't changed. He's just the same as he was when nobody knew him. We've always followed his career here in Heppenheim.
Sebastian is a quite unassuming person from Heppenheim, a normal guy like the rest of us.
Typically, for the modest young world champion, Vettel was quick to pay tribute to the people who helped him on the road to success, his Formula One team.
It's a team sport. It's based on trust. And when you are there for one another and you can count on one another, then perhaps you're a bit faster and a bit cleverer here and there.
Vettel first took the wheel in a go-kart when he was just 4 years old, and his first races were fought on the track in Kelpen that belongs to the father of 7-time Formula One world champion Michael Schumacher. The German racing legend was at his side from the very start. Vettel's meteoric career rise took him from go-kart racing via Formula BMW to the superlative world of Formula One. Schumacher was on hand to give the young Sebastian Vettel useful hints and guidance.
When I talk to Michael Schumacher these days, then I'm talking to a person I know, and not Michael Schumacher, the Formula One world champion, like I used to. But he's still a role model for me, and someone whose example I can follow.
Since Schumacher's return to Formula One 2 years ago, the two men now meet as competitors on the racetrack.
We just behave the same way we've always done. We'll battle it out fair and square on the racetrack, and then we'll meet up to enjoy each other's company as friends after the race.
However, Sebastian Vettel does differ totally from his idol in one respect when it comes to earnings from sponsors and advertising. Schumacher earned millions off the circuit with a perfect marketing strategy. Vettel's appearances at commercial photo shoots remain the exception.
In the world of fashion photography, there's a lot of faking and acting going on. The belt was much too big, and the shoes were too big for me, and so I could never have gone out like that, but in the photo it looked really good. All the boats and the yachts, that isn't my thing. It's a long way away from me.
Sebastian Vettel's world is the racetrack. It's where he feels at home, and his laid-back, unassuming manner makes him hugely popular with everyone around him.
He isn't someone to shine just through success like Schumacher did. He also has the air of a worthy champion who shows respect for his competitors, his fans, and everyone else. You can't resent such a nice guy, even if he overtakes you for the 50th time.
One of the few rare insights into the private moments in his life, Vettel still has a lot of friends from the time he spent with the Formula One team in Italy.
Do you ever get angry? Because you seem like so smiley and happy and so...
I have to keep on driving. I cannot stop and be angry and say, oh, damn it.
When he isn't burning up the rubber, Sebastian Vettel seeks other challenges. His new Formula One contract guarantees him less PR appointments between races, giving him more time for his private life, which he successfully manages to keep from the prying eyes of the press.
Sebastian Vettel shows how good it is when you aren't just a good sportsman, but also someone with brains. And he's certainly intelligent. He knows that if he opens the door just one tiny bit, then his private life will be all over the newspapers. And he doesn't want that.
Those who will be meeting Sebastian Vettel to welcome him home will be his faithful fans from Heppenheim. The 24-year-old has already said he'll be dropping by before the next race to celebrate his victory in his hometown.
Well, in addition to champagne, Sebastian Vettel fans here in Germany most certainly popped many a bottle of Sekt. That's the German derivative of and pendant to champagne. And Euromaxx travelled to the Württemberg wine region in southern Germany to visit this country's oldest Sekt cellar, which dates back to 1826.
It's dark and cool in Kessler's historic cellar. Perfect conditions for the fermentation process that turns wine into sparkling wine. When added, sugar and yeast create carbon dioxide and make the wine bubbly. Every so often, the bottles have to be shaken and turned so the yeast slowly rises to the neck. It's how sparkling wine has been produced here for over 180 years.
The old method has one big advantage. You move the content by only a small amount. The less you move it, the less strain on the wine, and the better the results.
Kessler produces sparkling wines from Riesling, Chardonnay, and Pinot Noir grapes. Georg Christian von Kessler founded the company in 1826. It was Germany's first sparkling wine manufacturer. He learned the trade at the Veuve Clicquot Champagne House in France. The grapes for his first production run came from the vineyards right next door.
The very first vintage that Georg Christian von Kessler filled into bottles here was from a Klevner grape, a Pinot Noir variety. He filled 8,000 bottles with the cuvée. During fermentation, about half the bottles exploded.
Despite the teething problems, Kessler's sparkling wines took off. Soon they were exported as far away as Russia and the United States. Customers included aristocrats, industrial magnates, and the rising middle class. Film stars like Errol Flynn and Romy Schneider visited the company. In the 1950s, West German Chancellor Konrad Adenauer served Kessler sparkling wines at state banquets. And Germany's most famous dancers, the Kessler twins, became the face of the company. Before the wine is corked, it's topped off with a syrup of wine and sugar, known as a dosage. This mixture is what gives the finished product its unique flavor and character. Although production methods have stayed the same for decades, tastes among wine drinkers have changed considerably.
Around 1850, a typical sparkling wine had 200 or even 300 grams of sugar per liter. Today, Kessler wines have no more than 15 grams of sugar per liter.
The bottles are sealed with crown caps and are left to age on these special racks for 4 years.
You have to select the right wines, wines that can age for longer periods.
When the sparkling wine is fully aged, the yeast sediment has to be removed from the bottle. But carbon dioxide has formed inside the bottle, so the contents are under pressure. The bottle is dunked into an ice bath, which freezes the yeast in the neck. When the crown cap is removed, the sediment shoots out of the bottle, a process called degorging. Then it's time to add the dosage.
The more delicate the sparkling wine, the less sugar you need. That's the tendency nowadays. Every year we use a little less sugar than the year before.
Finally, the bottles are shaken to mix the dosage and the wine. Visitors can sample sparkling wines made from Riesling, Chardonnay, and red grapes. Rosé is also growing in popularity. A traditional sparkling winemaker catering to modern tastes.
Well, on that note, I think it is appropriate for us to say Prost or cheers. That's all for this edition of our Euromaxx highlights. So from all of us here in Berlin, all the best and hope to see you next time. Bis dann. Tschüss.